Hello, this is going to be a video on my Spellslinger build that I've been using in PvP and quite successfully dominating the enemy team. I'll just quickly show everything, just so if you just want to look at the build and not listen to me talk, then you can see. So that's the assault page, utility page, amps. And now if you actually want to listen to my explanation, continue to watch. The main four skills we use is Quick Draw tier 8, Charge Shot tier 8, Flame Burst just for the procs that you get with all the critical hits you're doing, and Assassinate to finish off targets. The main thing about this build is using Quick Draw tier 8 with trigger fingers. Where is trigger fingers? There it is. Yeah, sorry this build has trigger fingers, but every decent Spellslinger build will use trigger fingers and power surge. But yeah, those are my amps as well. But basically you spam quick draw, and whenever charge shot's up you spell surge charge shot, and while charge shot's down, or yeah, pretty much while charge shot's down, you flame burst if you can. Otherwise you just spam quick draw, and if anyone's below 30% health you want to assassinate. Tier 4 Assassinate's just for the extra damage plus the extra ability charge, which really helps finish off people. You don't have to put a point in Flame Burst because the base damage is still really good, but it's just extra damage that you can do onto 5 foes in an area. The tier 8 of Charge Shot you get increased Spell Surge damage, so this is why the skill needs to be Spell Surged, as well as it taking less time to charge up to full. For the utility spells, I use Gate, Flash Freeze, Void Slip, and Spatial Shift. This skill can be switched out, but I'll go over the other one. Gate is just the must-have in every Spellslinger build, pretty much, because it's an interrupt and it's a stun. Okay, they're the same thing, but yeah, it's a stun and an interrupt, and an escape. Yeah. But using Gate and Flash Freeze together can really lock down enemies. Flash Freeze is good, not because of the damage, but for the root time. And also that I don't think the enemy can break out of a Flash Freeze. You just have to stand still and take the whole full second duration, unless you've got something that gets rid of CC. And you can probably hear a phone ringing. That's kind of upsetting. Yeah, there's no breakout gameplay during Flash Freeze, so if you get Flash Freezed, you just have to take it. Void Slip is also a very good skill, especially if you're being focused by warriors. Warriors are generally the biggest problem I have because they can do so much damage, they can keep on you quite easily, and they're tanky. They just have everything. Please nerf. But Void Slip has a long cooldown, but the amount you're going to be spamming Quick Draw, the cooldown will be greatly reduced because of trigger fingers, which is pretty OP. But yeah, Void Slip's used for the situations where you're getting focused too hard. Spatial Shift is good on the Moody Mask map, and it's alright in Arena, but you may want to take Phase Shift instead. Spatial Shift will swap your position with the enemy position, so if you use it on the flag carrier, on the Moody Mask carrier, it'll bring him back, and he'll also possibly start walking in the wrong direction because it applies Confuse, and Confuse changes your WASD pretty much, so if you're pressing forward you could go backwards, left or right, but sometimes it just you don't get the good RNG and they just keep holding forwards and they keep going forwards. Phase Shift, you can use you can swap out Spatial Shift for Phase Shift if you're getting focused by warriors, pretty much. It gives you an interrupt armor, but that's not really, I mean it's important, it's decent, but I really like the increased deflect chance by 50%, because it pretty much negates 50% of the damage you're about to take. Unless they've got something that gets through deflect, then you got a problem. But yeah, either of those two, and or in the lower levels, I like to take Vitality Burst instead of Spatial Shift, just because you can spam this ability and it's alright healing. But at level 50 you really have to have dedicated healers, and you need to be doing the DPS. So I think you can get the optimum amount of damage with these 4 assault skills, and using 4 utility skills really helps you stay alive, and also apply CC for your team to lock people down and kill them. So that is the skills I'm using, and the amps are pretty generic. I use these amps for PvE and PvP. Obviously, once I noticed Trigger Fingers and Power Surge, they're both very hard to get because they're world drops and they're very expensive on most servers, but me being lucky, I bought Power Surge for 50 gold, and Trigger Fingers, I found it as a world drop. GG. That's selling for like 7 plat on my server. And all of these are pretty much just generic things I've copied. So yeah, Assassinate's there, very important to have that. Gunslinger, also important. That one, very important still. All important skills. So yeah, that's pretty much my build, and probably the last 10 battlegrounds I've done, I've top damage, top kills, rated battlegrounds, and I was going with a group. So we're also against other rated teams pretty much. There are lots of big groups of people, but yeah, top kills, top damage. And yeah, I'll show you some gameplay now, I guess. Goodbye. Okay, fine. Before I show you some gameplay, I'll just give you an idea of what you're meant to do. When you go into a fight, you want to press Q once. This will give you the buff. What's the buff called? Increases assault power by 10%. So you want to use that, Spell Surge, hold that button, Charge Shot. Once that goes off, you can keep your Spell Surge on if you want and spam Q. And then whenever you can, press it. I was going to say spam Q, these are my controls. Spam Quick Draw, and then whenever you can, Flame Burst. And then when you have Spell Surge and a Charge Shot, use it. And just continue doing this. And if anyone's ever low, a good combo to do is either you can just assassinate just like that, or if they're just over 30%, you do that and then follow it up with 3 assassinates, and you can do absolutely crazy burst damage. That's pretty much it. Obviously the other skills are pretty self-explanatory. You got your root that you can use to keep enemies, when you see enemies together, you want to use the root to keep them all bunched up, and that's when you'll do lots of AoE damage. You got your gate ability that can be used, like say that's a warrior and behind him is a bunch of enemies. You could just like walk up to the warrior, gate over him, stun him, stun the rest of the enemies, and then start shooting, and once the gate stun wears off, you know, flash freeze follow up by a charge shot, spam Q, anyone low, assassinate them. And then yeah, as I said, spatial shift can be used for that. That's also helpful against warriors. If you see one of your healers or something getting wrecked by a warrior, or any melee and anyone getting wrecked by any healer getting wrecked by anyone, you can spatial shift, but generally it is warriors because the damage is dumb as fuck. But yeah, spatial shift them, they'll go over, they'll come back here, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm trying to go forwards, oh, I'm trying to go forwards, oh, what's going on? Yeah, that's exactly how they act. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. It's simple rotation to maximise your damage.